What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for coming back. Guys, I finally watched The Crow. I've only lived on this planet for 36 years, and of course, I loved it, and I immediately needed to go and get the 1/6 scale version of Eric Draven, The Crow, from Sideshow Collectibles. So today, I've got it in the collection. I can't wait to get it out of the box, give you guys my thoughts on the figure, and a little bit of thoughts on the film itself. But guys, stick around. If you like the video, hit the like button, smash the subscribe if you're new to the Ben Thomas Show, and let's get into it.
Oh, pardon me, but it's, Ben
Thomas.
Showtime. Here we go.
Okay, welcome back. So, as you can imagine, if you've seen The Crow and you love The Crow as a film, you can imagine me on my way to the store, just like this today, to make sure I was able to pick up this collectible from my local shop. The Crow figure in 1/6 scale by Sideshow Collectibles. Now, I had a really good experience with this film last night. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, and many thanks to many of you out there who gave me the recommendation to watch it. Absolutely has this film inspired other movies that I absolutely love. Those like The Dark Knight and John Wick. But this was something different. It's dark, for sure, and it does show its age at times. Brandon Lee in the main role I thought was excellent, and it's so sad to know that he actually passed away during the filming of this film, as he was shot by accident. And it's unfortunate because just like Heath Ledger in his Joker performance, I think this would have absolutely shot Brandon Lee into stardom. He did have some notable roles previously, but this would have been the standout. The packaging for this box has been beautiful, absolutely iconic to the film. When I open up the clamshell here and take the slipcover off of his head, I see the Brandon Lee likeness there for sure. It's not perfect by any stretch. Now, I didn't want to just show this figure in dark lighting either, so I will show it a bit brighter later on, but this figure deserves to be shrouded in some darkness. If you know the story, and you know how creepy it also is, it's pretty awesome to see it here in person. Now, this is also a love story, and a tragic one at that. One that actually reminds me a little bit of the John Wick origin story. A really traumatic events happened to this person, but this guy, in particular, gets some supernatural abilities through the help of a raven, and he's resurrected, which then begins his violent quest against those who wronged him. And when I say that this film, certainly in my opinion, inspired at least some favorite scenes for me of other movies, scenes like this with the gangsters, just absolutely no fear as he walks into the room. And you can't help but see some similarities in the scenes here that are on the screen. But either way, inspirational, because this film also shows a character that not only has such a tragic beginning, but is also an absolute badass, virtually indestructible at first. And for me, both the combination of the epic violence, but also the supernatural ability of the Crow really gets my juices flowing. Like, for me, it's the type of character that I like having in my display, because you root for this character. After you see what these gangsters have done to this person and his family, thrown him out a window, left him for dead, you want him to come back and absolutely mess these dudes up. And I gotta say, you won't be disappointed by that aspect of the film. Now, there are elements here as well to the figure that I really like seeing. I like seeing that bullet damage on the outfit, that's really cool, and the bullet damage in his hand that we'll talk about in a couple minutes. Now, I'll also say I don't love the jacket provided with the figure. You almost have to tack the collar down, which isn't ideal, and the material feels cheap. The jacket has tears in it, but that is from the film, so it's not degrading material on it at this point. But to be honest, the material feels like it will degrade either way, and likely have a bit more of a battle damage look down the line. It's got some really nice patterning in the inside, and I do like that. The Crow that comes with this figure is pretty cool, because not only is the character called the Crow, but he's resurrected by one, and it's important. I think it's interesting that they quote the Raven in the film, and with this bird in figure format, he's okay. He's not terribly painted, but I wouldn't write home about it either. It definitely would have been cool to get an open wingspan for the crow here, but unfortunately didn't come in the box. Now, up close with a little bit more bright lighting on it, I would say I don't love how high the makeup goes on the eyes. It was a little bit more off-centered in the movie and I thought that would look good. The rope on the chest here also looks like if you're not careful it would pull off, but one thing I'm impressed by is the scarring under the shirt that matches the bullet holes. I think that's really amazing, especially for a Sideshow body, and I was not expecting that, to actually physically see scar tissue. The pants are very similar material to the jacket, so again I'd be worried about degrading, and the bullet damage doesn't look like it matches on the back, which is interesting. But it does on the front, and at least for me, I'll never have this figure back facing out to me in the collection. Don't love the material of the pants though, would not be shocked to see this degrade down the line. Now the boots have relatively good articulation, I wouldn't write home about that either necessarily, but they're well painted, they're well sculpted, they look cool, there's no tread on the bottom, not the end of the world. At least it supports the figure, and that was my biggest concern with Sideshow bodies. And then lastly, you see his fiance's engagement ring around the neck. Now, one of my favorite scenes in the film was actually this, when Brandon Lee takes a bullet in the hand, and you see him at first look like he's in pain, but then the crazy behind his eyes as he watches the bullet hole literally heal and looks through it, which is intense, and you get that hand with this figure, and bravo Sideshow, I'm happy with that. Look how cool this is. You can actually see the blood painting right through the sculpt, which is great. Because I will say, the rest of the hands here, not so great. Even this hand, while the blood staining is well painted in my opinion, the rest of the hand is kind of mediocre, and these hands feel very plasticky. They don't look great. I do like that the wrist pegs are permanently affixed though. It does make swapping them way easier. Now you'll see here the sword with the two guns that he comes with as well. There is no blood staining on the gun, it is light reflection from my display, but you can see how shiny it looks despite it not being a die-cast sword, and neither of these guns are die-cast either. Well, you can see here where you'd be able to load the bullets if it were a real gun, which I do think is a very cool little detail. This one feels a little bit more plasticky, a little more cheap, no moving bits on this guy, but still nice to have an extra gun in the 1/6 scale display. And when I'm talking about guns here, we're also going to look at this shotgun, because once again, it looks really great. Now I do like that they've given us a hand sculpt that holds the shotgun really firmly, but I will say that the weight on the shoulder of the figure with this shotgun up won't last very long. The Sideshow body is still a little bit weak at the shoulders, I've noticed, and this gun is a little heavy despite it also not being a die-cast piece. It is plastic, but well painted. Cool little part of the film as well, in my opinion, when he's after the pawn shop owner and he shoots the store filled with the rings and blows it up. So cool. So I wanted to recreate that, despite him having the jacket in the scene, and I just don't like the jacket with the figure itself. But you can see how the arm is pulled down a little bit with the shotgun, so I've actually posed out that way. Overall, I think this is going to be the way that I keep the figure displayed in my collection. I like the idea of him walking out with the shotgun down on his side, the bullet hole through his hand that you can see in the well-lit display as well. And while I don't think that the likeness to Brandon Lee is perfect by any stretch, this feels like I've got a version of the Crow in my collection now. And he's a badass figure, iconic film history when it comes to the movie, and forever will I now think about the Crow in my top 10 films of superhero genre and origin stories. I loved the film, and I loved the figure here today. But guys, let me know, is this one that you've got in your collection? Is it one that you've been chasing? Did you guys like The Crow, or did you feel like it was an overrated film? I was reluctant to see this for many years, but I'm happy I took the plunge and now have this figure in my collection room. But guys, if you liked the video, hit the like button for me, smash the subscribe if you're new to the Ben Thomas Show, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody.